Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video, and today we are actually on Real Racing 3 in the big 2025, mainly because I was wondering, is there any game that has anything to do with endurance racing on mobile? And the only game that really came up was, well, Real Racing 3, so I'm going to compare it with iRacing because, well, why not? And I was initially going to drive the BMW, but due to the visibility being so damn bad in that BMW, we're going to drive the Porsche 963 GTP, which thankfully I also have on iRacing. So let us get straight into it. Let's not talk about the fact that my graphics on Real Racing 3 are better than on iRacing. We don't talk about that. First of all, we're going to go over the sound, and we'll start things off with iRacing. We will start things off with Real Racing 3, and first of all, I need to fix the damn camera angle, so zoom right in. That is a lot more like it, a little bit more like how I drive on iRacing. And in terms of sound, obviously, it is a little bit unfair to judge a mobile game compared to an actual simulator. But to be fair to Real Racing 3, the downshift sound is quite nice. Let's compare the two, starting with iRacing. And with that being said, let us get a clip of real life. I like that in Real Racing 3, you do have a bit of a whine sound from the engine as you downshift and hit the brakes, but obviously you don't really hear that in iRacing or in real life. At the end of the day, sound isn't that important on a mobile game when you get to drive official tracks and cars. But what is important is handling, and I think anyone will tell you, or who hasn't a Real Racing 3 Glazer, will tell you that the handling on this game is mental. That clip you just saw there in iRacing was full fuel for races, fixed setup, and kind of cold tyres. While in Real Racing 3, it kind of feels like you're on air a little bit, and you don't really feel the limit of the car. So that can be very confusing, especially when pushing. As you can tell, I had a bit of a slide there, which I have no idea where it came from. But then we look at the final chicane. In slow speed corners, there is a huge difference between the games. As on iRacing, very easy to lock up, very easy to misjudge when to put down the throttle. But I was quite happy with my lap, considering it was like my third or fourth actual proper attempt of doing a lap. Meanwhile, on Real Racing 3, you just gotta absolutely send it in there. Don't turn too much, otherwise the car will just slide, get under power, and that is about it. So in terms of handling, not great, but there's always that satisfaction that you're driving an official car on an official game. But now, let us drive my favourite hypercar at the moment, the Ferrari 499P. Let's get straight into it. Right, instead of spending 100 quid, let us jump in the LMP3 car. I think it's a new car, and I think Sebring is also a new addition to the game. I've not really been in touch that much with Real Racing 3, but it is lovely to see Sebring, and lovely to hear some of the bumps at the hairpin, so you can really see what they're going for, as Sebring is known to be a very bumpy track. As you can tell in this iRacing clip, if you look at my camera on the top right, you can see it shaking, even with a stabilizer on it, with the app I use on my phone. But now, another small point about how quick the cars are in Real Racing 3. Just look at the top left to really see how much I gained on my lap that I did in iRacing. And do ignore that turn one, it's not that deep. And by now, just before the final sector of the track, my Real Racing 3 lap has overtaken my iRacing lap. But obviously, this game isn't all about realism. Well, it is called Real Racing 3, but it's not that deep. It's a mobile game. And I must say, the LMP3 on Real Racing 3 does sound much better than the Porsche 963 as we go around the final corner on both games to finish a lap of Sebring. Great track to have on both of the games. And finally, we're actually going to try a bit of GT3 on Real Racing 3. This is something I never would have done a few years ago because I simply didn't really mind that much. But now that I'm actually a bit of a fan of endurance racing, I think it's very much worth it to have a look at how GT3's handled on this game. And I must say, it's more or less the same. Just if you turn a bit too much, a bit too early, you're gonna slide, just like as you've seen at the hairpin. And I must say, this layout of Daytona confused me completely here. As I was getting ready to open up the left-hander, and all of a sudden there's a right-hander in front of me. But apart from that little mishap, I did notice that the GT3s are a lot easier to catch in terms of, well, sliding and oversteering. They're a lot easier to catch on this game as I go completely wide. And I will admit, I did exactly the same thing on iRacing. So that's a layout I'm never ever driving again. But moving on to what I was really interested in is how both games, how will they handle at the chicane, starting with Real Racing 3. Obviously, the car being a lot lighter, you can just kind of send it, not really any sort of rear end loss or anything, and a little bit of a slowdown there on the left hand side just to keep you in check. Meanwhile, on iRacing, you can feel absolutely every bump, every curb, and you can really feel the rear of the car engage. But to be fair, I feel like with Real Racing 3, due to, F1 Mobile Racing going away about a year ago and other officially licensed games or racing games like F1 Clash just being a bit meh, Real Racing 3 is your best bet in terms of if you want to drive licensed cars. But at the end of the day, I'm very biased. I'd much rather play Monoposto or Alamobile or even FX Racer because generally there is so much more that you can do for a lot less of a price. But let me know your thoughts on Real Racing 3. That is the end of today's video. Do you think there'll ever be another hypercar, WEC, etc. sort of game coming out on mobile soon due to the big golden era, as they call it? Be sure to let me know. I'll see you all in the next video, and goodbye.
What it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see it shine, 'cause we're golden. They can't